They intercepted our earliest radio waves like archaeologists brushing dust from ancient bones. Static-laced broadcasts, monophonic music, and fragments of early television fizzled through the void of space. To the Galactic Union, it was noise, harmless, outdated, irrelevant. The Council reviewed Earth's data with detached amusement. Their analysts highlighted Earth's energy signature, a pale blue, still burning fossil fuels, still launching chemical rockets, still tethered to a single planet. The summary report was damning. Species 3987, self-destructive, technologically stunted, no threat potential. Vorkith, an admiral with centuries of conquest behind him, chuckled through his mandibles. They use combustion to fly. They think in binary. I've seen rodents with better strategic sense. The chamber echoed with laughter. To them, we were children waving sticks, shouting at gods we didn't understand. Official protocol required no engagement, but curiosity, ego, and the itch for easy subjugation proved too tempting. Vorkith requested a live demonstration, an introduction. The Council agreed. After all, what harm could come from saying hello to ants? Earth's skies split open above the Pacific as the alien dreadnought arrived, silent and absolute. Its hull shimmered with dark matter plating, its gravity distorting the clouds below. Global communications were hijacked. The message was multilingual, calculated, cold. We are the Galactic Union. Your species is now known. You will comply with standard planetary integration. Disarm all nuclear assets. Cease offensive development. Submit scientific and cultural data. In return, you'll be preserved. Most governments froze. Some kneeled immediately, signing away sovereignty in hopes of survival. Others protested the imposition, but quietly. No nation wanted to be first to defy a ship that could swat satellites from orbit like flies. But beneath the panic, another voice emerged. General Cassidy of the Earth Defense Initiative had been preparing for this possibility long before the world believed it real. EDI wasn't just a think tank. It was a contingency forged in secrecy during the last days of the Cold War. Hidden bases, black budget research, and plans for contact that the public never knew existed. Cassidy wasn't surprised. She was disappointed. They came not to greet, she said in a closed session of the UN Emergency Council. They came to measure, to judge, and one day to take. Leaders dismissed her as a relic. What do you propose we do? They asked. Throw rocks at their starships? But some listened. Quietly, invitations were extended. The EDI returned to full operational status under the Arctic ice. Underground labs in Patagonia rebooted. Engineers resurfaced from retirement. The world watched the skies. The EDI watched the aliens. Back in orbit, Vorkith observed Earth's slow compliance and scoffed. They filed their disarmament paperwork. They shared their digital archives. They offered guided tours of their cities and databases. It was pathetic. Let them grovel, he told his second-in-command. Soon, they'll thank us for their chains. On Earth, while most of the world's military powers shrank in submission, a few quietly ignored the mandates. Countries that distrusted the Union's intentions found common cause for the first time in centuries. Rivals became allies in silence. In a facility buried a mile beneath Greenland, a prototype began to take shape. It didn't rely on plasma or antimatter. It didn't require warp fields. It was born from human principles, brute force raw physics, and a defiance that no equation could quantify. The science was crude by galactic standards, but ingenious in its simplicity. What Earth lacked in refinement, it compensated for with unpredictability. The weapon wasn't meant to match the aliens. It was meant to bypass them. Meanwhile, alien drones hovered over cities, mapping infrastructure and gauging compliance. Cultural liaisons studied our art and music like one might study zoo animals mimicking language. A popular interstellar broadcast aired an episode titled Primitive Elegance, the sad beauty of pre-space civilizations. It ended with Earth's national anthems playing on alien flutes. Vorkith sent a message to the Council. Within one planetary cycle, they will beg for full assimilation. Their spirit is as outdated as their weapons. But not everyone saw things so clearly. A junior data analyst aboard the dreadnought reviewed irregular patterns in Earth satellite telemetry. Some nations weren't broadcasting. Some sectors had gone silent. He flagged it as an anomaly. His superior dismissed it. They are hiding nothing. They have nothing to hide. Back in the Arctic, Cassidy watched the alien broadcasts in silence. The contempt in their voices, the way they spoke of humanity as a museum piece. Her staff looked to her for direction. "We're not here to impress them," she said. "We're here to remind them what happens when you corner something that still has teeth." Diplomatic overtures continued. Vorka performed well on interstellar media, answering questions from curious citizens of other species. When asked if he feared human retaliation, he laughed. "If they throw a rock, we'll melt the continent it came from." But somewhere deep beneath Earth's crust, human minds worked feverishly, not to meet expectations, but to destroy them. There was no anger in Cassidy's voice as she signed the final authorization. Only resolve. They mistook silence for consent. They mistook restraint for weakness. Let's help them understand the difference. And so Earth waited, smiling politely at its would-be overlords while tightening its grip around something ancient, something the stars had long forgotten, a will to fight, not because we could win, but because surrender was never an option. The dreadnought hovered above the Pacific, like a god too bored to smite. Weeks passed since the initial broadcast. Earth complied, at least on paper. The Galactic Union believed the job was done. Compliance metrics passed 87%. Human culture had been cataloged. Their weapons were marked for dismantlement. The rest was bureaucracy. But Vorkith was restless. Earth's silence had become irritating. No protest. No rebellion. No passion. He believed humanity's spirit had died long before they'd arrived. He wanted to make a point. Without approval from the Council, he ordered a demonstration. A non-inhabited island chain in the Pacific, an old weapons testing zone, was selected. At 0400 UTC, the dreadnought charged its primary pulse cannon and fired. The ocean boiled. The island vanished in white light. Tectonic shockwaves rippled across the seafloor. Global sensors lit up. Seismographs screamed. And then came the silence. The Galactic Union issued a sanitized press release, an unfortunate necessity, a reminder of what resistance leads to. No life was lost. But humans weren't calculating damage in terms of body counts. They were counting intentions. The aliens had shown their hand. And behind the curtain of diplomacy, something darker stirred. World leaders screamed in private. Publicly, they issued tepid condemnations. The United Nations called for calm. Some asked the obvious. What happens when they target a city? In the Arctic, General Cassidy didn't wait for answers. The strike confirmed everything she predicted. The mask had slipped at the EDI compound. She stood before a room of scientists and tacticians. No podium, no theatrics, just a room full of people who had been waiting for this day. She gave one order: activate Ghost Light. Ghost Light wasn't a missile. It wasn't a bomb. It was a machine wrapped around a hypothesis, built on decades of fringe theory, dark energy manipulation, and a recovered alien emitter they weren't supposed to have. Dr. Mbeki, the physicist who led the project, was careful with her words. It creates a localized gravitational singularity, not stable, not controlled, but brief enough to collapse shielding. Anything around it gets pulled in and shredded. The prototype had only been tested once, on a recovered scout drone buried in the Andes. The results weren't elegant, but they were effective. The drone shielding collapsed instantly. Its frame twisted, imploded, and vanished. There was no explosion, just absence. Humanity had no fleets, no armadas, no interstellar logistics. But they had this: a hole in space, a fist that ignored armor. The first deployment would not be a battlefield engagement. It would be a warning. Ghostlight was loaded into a stealth drone, a Frankenstein creation built from an old spy plane frame, heat-resistant alloys stolen from aerospace graveyards, and a cloaking system borrowed from alien wreckage. Analog systems. Nothing digital. Nothing detectable. It launched under the cover of a geomagnetic storm, masked by solar interference. The target was an orbital observation post, one of the smaller alien outposts hovering over Earth's equator. No weapons, just sensors and arrogance. The drone reached it without notice. Then it fired. The singularity flared for exactly 3.6 seconds. The alien outpost didn't explode. It folded, bent into itself, compressed the size of a marble before vanishing completely. No debris, no trace, only an empty patch of sky where surveillance used to be. No one on Earth claimed responsibility, but everyone knew. The message was sent. Cassidy hacked the emergency global feed. Her face didn't appear, only her voice. We are not your zoo. We are not your students. And we are not your subjects. You brought violence. You showed us your strength. Now you've seen ours. The signal lasted 23 seconds. Enough time for the message to be broadcast across orbital channels and captured by at least 3 Galactic Union listening stations. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic took a different form. One species viewed the message with analytical curiosity. Another recommended negotiation. A few dismissed it as a fluke, but not Vorkith. He recognized it for what it was. War. He demanded full authority to respond. They struck first. He lied. They destroyed Union property. This is an act of terrorism. But the Council hesitated. Earth was still listed as a protected cultural biosphere. Full-scale military retaliation required a vote, and too many feared turning a backwater into a battlefield might invite attention from less friendly galactic players. The motion failed. Vorkith was ordered to maintain surveillance and avoid escalation. He obeyed the order publicly. Privately, he began planning an invasion anyway. On Earth, leaders expected immediate retaliation. It didn't come. The silence was louder than any weapon. In the days that followed, a shift occurred. Protesters who once waved signs now waved flags. Nations that once spat at each other's borders began trading data. Satellite networks quietly resynchronized. Underground bunkers long sealed were reopened. Humanity had crossed a line. They weren't sure what came next, but they knew there was no going back. Dr. Mbeki refined a Ghostlight prototype. Cassidy greenlit 2 more devices. Plans for orbital delivery were accelerated. They didn't have the luxury of perfecting the tech. The point wasn't to win. It was to make the cost of conquest unbearable. And if they were going to burn, they'd make sure the stars remembered who lit the match. The final moment came quietly. Vorkith received a data packet from an automated scout ship still in lunar orbit. It had tracked anomalous activity on Earth's far side, a pattern of launches, energy spikes, and unknown emissions. He parsed the data, then laughed. They think we don't see them. They think shadows will save them. He issued one final message to the Council. I will wait no longer. Permission or not, I'm ending this. Earth had fired first. Now the stars would answer. Vorkith's fleet descended upon Earth, like a predator circling its prey. The ships were massive, sleek, gleaming monstrosities capable of razing entire continents with little more than a flick of their weapons. The dreadnoughts moved in with calculated precision, each maneuver designed to intimidate, to force Earth into submission. The first volley of ion cannons lit up the sky like falling stars, reducing several outlying military bases to nothing but ash. Humanity, once meek and silent, had begun to show signs of something more dangerous, resolve. But no amount of defiance could prepare them for what followed. A fleet of 20 ships, each far superior to anything Earth had ever produced, filled the sky. The message was clear. This is no longer a game. Submit or perish. Cassidy sat in the EDI's command center, watching the monitors flicker to life with reports from every corner of the globe. People were panicking, evacuating cities, running from the inevitable. Leaders scrambled to negotiate, to find any remaining avenue of diplomacy. But Cassidy knew it was too late for that. The aliens had come for blood. At this point, there was no saving the cities, no saving the world as it had been. The only question left was how much humanity was willing to sacrifice to protect its future. And in that moment, Cassidy realized something. The aliens had underestimated them. Again, Cassidy wasn't afraid of the fleet. Not anymore. She had a secret. one that even the aliens had not anticipated. Project WRM's Fong was ready. The prototype had been built in a hidden facility beneath the mountains of the Andes, developed with stolen alien tech, human ingenuity, and sheer desperation. It was the only chance humanity had to strike back, to show the invaders that they weren't the helpless, primitive creatures they assumed. The weapon was volatile, dangerous. There were no guarantees it would work. But without it, humanity had no future. The alien fleet wasn't here for a negotiation. It was here to exterminate. "Prepare the Fong," Cassidy ordered, voice cold and determined. The room went silent as her team went to work, activating the gravity distortion field, recalibrating the emitter array, and running last-minute tests. They didn't have time to check and recheck. This was the last option left. The Fong wasn't a missile or a bomb. It wasn't designed to kill the enemy. It was designed to cripple them. The device created a localized gravity anomaly, bending space-time in a way that would destabilize the alien ship's shielding, rendering them vulnerable for a fraction of a second. The weapon, once activated, would not be a blast, but an absence, a crushing, instantaneous force. The weapons test on the small alien probe had been successful. Now, the stakes were higher. The target was a full-fledged fleet of invasion ships. Cassidy knew the risks. If it failed, Earth would be finished. But as the final preparations were made, a sense of purpose filled the command center. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for dignity, for the right to exist. And that made all the difference. Launching in 30 seconds, the technician announced, his voice tense. The countdown began. Vorkutha's fleet was moving into position. His dreadnoughts were closing on Earth's atmosphere, preparing to make their first strike. From their perspective, they were unchallenged. No human force could stop them. At least, that's what they thought. The Fong fired. The effects were immediate and overwhelming. A rippling distortion in space-time tore through the alien fleet's forward shield. The first ship, the flagship, crumpled inward in a flash of energy. Its hull buckled and imploded like a paper cup caught in a collapsing vortex, collapsing into nothingness. The second ship tried to fire, but its weapon system short-circuited as the gravitational wave hit, and careened off course, spiraling into the atmosphere. In those few seconds, the unthinkable had happened. Earth had struck back. For a moment, there was silence. On Earth, people watched in disbelief. The aliens, those mighty, untouchable invaders, had been struck. Their ships were in chaos. Panic set in among their ranks. The humans had done it. They had pierced the veil of invulnerability that the aliens had so arrogantly wrapped around themselves. Vorkuth, furious and now terrified, sent an immediate communication to the council. His voice was laced with rage, a sharp contrast to the calm, calculated tone he had once held. "They've made their move," he growled. "The fools they fired first. We will retaliate in kind. Prepare for immediate bombardment." On Earth, Cassidy watched the devastation unfold on the screen, but there was no joy in her face, no celebration. They had done what was necessary, but the war had only just begun. She understood the stakes now more than ever. "We've triggered the response," Cassidy said, her voice unwavering. "Prepare for full-scale engagement. Earth will not bend. Not now. Not ever." In the alien fleet's command center, Vorkutha's fury reached new heights. He knew his position was precarious. He had underestimated Earth. He had dismissed them as weak, as primitive. Now, he had no choice but to escalate. He ordered the immediate launch of orbital bombardment. His fleet's ion cannons powered up, and the first salvo was fired, hurtling toward Earth's major cities. The shockwave from the blast would level entire regions. Humanity's survival had never been so uncertain. Yet in the face of annihilation, the global response was unified. Governments set aside their differences. Citizens lined up to defend their homes. The weapons were primitive by alien standards, but there was something they couldn't calculate: human tenacity, the willingness to sacrifice everything for a chance at survival. Cassidy stared at the screen, watching as the alien bombardment began. They thought they had won, but humanity had already made its move. The stakes had been set. Earth had fired first. And they would not stop until the invaders understood that they had just awakened something they couldn't control. The first salvo of alien bombardment struck the Earth's surface with terrifying force. A wave of light and fire washed over entire cities, turning once vibrant metropolises into barren wastelands. In the chaos, humanity's determination grew stronger. It wasn't the first time Earth had faced catastrophe, but this time it was different. This time, humanity fought for more than survival. They fought for the very idea of existence itself. The world's military response was swift. Nations that had once been rivals now shared resources and strategies in a desperate bid to mount a defense. But no matter how advanced Earth's technology had become, there was still no match for the sheer firepower of the Galactic Union's fleet. The aliens, having underestimated humanity's will to resist, were now watching their own warships be struck down one by one. And it wasn't by high-tech weaponry or the power of a fully equipped army. It was by sheer human ingenuity. The WIRM's Fong had done its job. The gravitational anomaly had crippled the largest of their dreadnoughts, but the alien fleet was not defeated. The invaders were relentless, and their reinforcements had already arrived. The skies above Earth were filled with the immense ships, their weapons primed and ready to bring devastation to the planet. Cassidy watched the battle unfold on the command center's holographic display, her mind working quickly. It was clear that Earth's defenses, however impressive, could not withstand the power of the aliens forever. The fate of humanity rested in her hands, and the hands of a few brave souls who had risked everything to ensure that Earth could continue to exist. The second phase of counteroffensive began when a fleet of human ships, retrofitted with the best available alien technology, launched from hidden bunkers beneath the planet's surface. They were small, nimble vessels compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but they were equipped with every tool the humans had discovered: cloaking devices, advanced weaponry, and the ability to disable the alien ship's shields using localized bursts of electromagnetic interference. The first wave of human ships was destroyed almost immediately, their shields unable to withstand the brutal firepower of the invading fleet. The alien ships fired without hesitation, wiping out humanity's first line of defense. But it wasn't over. As the human fleet regrouped, a final, desperate plan was set into motion. The human response was about to escalate. Back in the Arctic compound, Cassidy stood at the heart of the command center, watching as her team prepped the final weapon, Project Obsidian. It wasn't just another weapon. It was Earth's last stand. Obsidian was designed to be a game-changer. Drawing on the last remnants of alien technology and the most dangerous human innovations, it was capable of a localized, high-energy pulse strong enough to disable entire fleets. The catch? The pulse would overload Earth's satellite network and cause widespread electromagnetic disruption across the globe. "I'm not going to lie," Dr. Mbeki said, her face grim. "We'll be flying blind after this. Communications will go dark. But if it works, it will cut them off in their command structure and give us a fighting chance." Cassidy nodded, not giving her any false hope. "We'll take it from there. If it fails, Earth fails." The countdown began. Cassidy turned toward the screen, watching as the final calculations came through. 10 seconds, Dr. Mbeki said. Cassidy didn't flinch. There was no room for fear anymore, only resolve. The energy buildup was palpable as Project Obsidian reached its peak. The electromagnetic pulse would crack through the fabric of the alien fleet's command structure, severing communication between their ships and giving Earth's scattered forces a fleeting window of opportunity to strike. The pulse detonated. A massive surge of energy rolled through the ionosphere, cascading down to Earth's surface. For a moment, all went silent. Then the monitors flickered. Lights dimmed. Earth's satellites fell into the void as their systems were fried beyond repair. Every alien ship, from the smallest drone to the largest dreadnought, felt the impact of the pulse. Their systems scrambled. Shields dropped. Command centers lost synchronization. It was humanity's chance. Without the ability to communicate effectively, the alien fleet was thrown into chaos. Vorkith, his warship systems in disarray, howled in frustration as his tactical overview blinked out. He'd been confident, too confident. Earth had thrown every resource it had into one final strike, and it had worked. The Union was now crippled, but Earth's victory was far from assured. Cassidy gave the order to attack. On Earth's surface, the battle escalated. Forces on the ground, equipped with everything from experimental tanks to repurposed spacecraft, launched coordinated strikes against the alien forces. Every human soldier, every civilian with the courage to stand, fought back with a single purpose: survival. The fight wasn't just against alien invaders. It was a fight for the future of their species. They would not die quietly. The alien ships, disoriented and under attack from every angle, tried to regroup, but every attempt was met with human ingenuity. The last of Earth's military launched one final assault against Vorkuta's flagship. The battle was fierce, but it was humanity's grit that carried the day. Vorkuta's ship, once invincible, began to crack under pressure. His flagship, now riddled with holes, began to lose altitude. His crew scrambled in panic. Desperation settled in. Vorkuta knew the truth now. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for everything they had ever built. And they would die fighting. A final, fatal shot from one of Earth's remaining warships slammed into the heart of Vorkuta's vessel. Tearing through its core, the ship shattered. The alien commander's last scream echoed to the ruins of his fleet, a symbol of his arrogance and a reminder that Earth had never been the helpless prey he thought it was. As the smoke cleared and the last of the alien ships fell, humanity stood victorious. It had been a hard-won victory, one that cost them everything, but they had shown the universe what happened when an underestimated species was pushed too far. Cassidy watched the debris in the sky fade. The war was over. Earth had won. But more than that, Earth had sent a message. They were not weak. They were not primitive. They were human, and the universe would never forget it.